anime people.
I was spelling it like kind of boomer dad. Like, are you watching the animes? So that makes
Yeah,
more sense.
like more than one anime. Yeah. Let me see if I can find. There is an anime character here that I used to wear when I went to department meetings, and oh my god, it made. Let's see if this is it. Made David Anthony so mad, uh, which right there was worth doing. But this isn't her because the one I was with uh, had like physics based hair, so I could do this and the hair would sway. Must have been a different app. Anyway, yeah. So this is animes, but it's ANIMAZE, and it's available through Steam. Yeah, there you go. Um, so um, so learn that. The other app that I would like you to look at, and we'll play with these during class, right? But I don't want you to come in after break with no sense of how they work. But there's a again free app called Daz Studio. It's at version 4.2 now, so that's the one that you should get. Let's see, I'm missing chats here. We could definitely make that happen. And one of the things you can look up, Alexis and others, is how to import these, how to animate and then import these 2D characters. I mean, it's not hard to make your own avatars. Um, and I'll come next time with some custom avatars. But the other program I would like you to grab is Daz Studio 4.2, um, and just it's basically think of Daz Studio as um, it's like a photography studio. You can do animation with it, but its animation functions are rudimentary. But it's actually a really good figure posing and image creation program. So think of it as basically like a photo studio. And with the free version, you'll get like some of their basic characters, some basic clothing, basic props, stuff like that. And I'll show you how to elaborate on that stuff because there's lots of free material. But essentially, what you can do is set up vignettes or situations, and then render them, which is essentially the equivalent of taking a photograph of them. And there are various ways you can bring stuff into VR as visuals and stuff like that. I'll show you how to make 360-degree images that work really well in VR, and stuff like that. Just not that you'll become an expert in Daya Studio or even that it's particularly desirable. It's not Unity. It's quite an old tool. I've been using it since early versions. I've been using it about 20 years, but it's one I'm familiar with. And any of these tools, if you learn the basics, it'll be much quicker for you to pick up other tools. Like moving to Unity from DAS is much easier than simply moving into Unity. And nothing you're going to learn will not apply. I think you'll find that that's true. Um, So yeah, so download that for really good tutorials in Daya Studio. Look for the YouTube channel WP Guru. That's the letter W, the letter P, GURU. There's I think a Dutch guy named um, Versluis is his last name. And I'm forgetting his first name right now, but he's just a really nice, gentle guy. And he has a series that was probably about 3 years ago called Daz Studio 101. And it's like real basics. So when you just play with this over, and again, like so many of these things, like the AI, my guess is once you start making pictures with it, you'll find it pretty addictive. And you'll want to do it and have a hard time stopping, uh, as I do. But by the end of the semester, you'll have some pretty good ways to make images and things like that that comport with the sorts of things you want to do. And I'll show you, if you all come in with the basics, I'll be able to show you some slightly more advanced stuff that you can do. I do stereoscopic VR with it. That is, I create an image for the left eye and an image for the right eye that are offset in such a way that in VR they take on volume. They have dimensionality, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. So we'll play with that. And I hope everybody, the other thing, software related, that I'd like you to do over the course of the semester is to begin to look. I mean, maybe you already have looked, um, but to begin to look at simulators, right? And they can be really simple simulators, but I'd like them to be fairly deep simulators, right? Of some thing, some activity you can't do in the real world. And I'll just give you some titles that seem to me like they might be worthwhile. Yeah. So here are some things that you might think are interesting or fun that in some way will give you because what I want you to do eventually is to be able to write out of this simulator to make fiction that uses your simulator experience as opposed to your real life experience, right? Because we can simulate a lot of things we can't do in real life, and the things we do in real life tend to be things other people have done too. And like, I don't need you to tell me about, I don't know what, eating at McDonald's or something, because I've got that down. So there's a 911 operator, and there are actually a bunch of games around that that have to do with not with being a cop, but with being a dispatcher, right? So you're in a town and you start getting calls, and you have to figure out which calls need, like, have to have priority, which calls can wait a moment, who you send, because you have different cops. You can hire cops, you can buy cars, like, but you start with, I think, 3 patrol cars, 2 fire trucks, and 2 ambulances, and you have to deploy them. You have a night shift, and you have to deploy them during your shift, depending on what calls come in. And it's pretty fascinating. Um, there's construction simulator, and you don't have to buy the newest one, right? Construction Simulator 2015, for instance, is a perfectly good construction simulator and probably pretty cheap at this point. There's farming simulators from years and years and years. One that I think is particularly interesting is Kerbal Space Program. Some of you have probably heard of that, Kerbal. And it sort of looks funny and cartoony, but it's actually a very serious, like, ballistics and like orbital mechanics simulator. You can learn a lot about building rockets and missiles and space planes and stuff like that. And a lot of people have spent thousands of hours playing in Kerbal Space Program. Plus, the Kerbals are pretty funny, and it's not as distressing when you send them spinning off into space and there's no way to get them back and they just go out there and run out of oxygen and food and die. Um, there's a program, there are actually a couple of these, but there's a program called Mud Runner, which is about driving Russian trucks. And maybe you don't want to do that because Russia's bad, but you can just pretend it's some other Slavic country. But it does things like it puts you in very real trucks, right? And you have to learn to, you have to learn to shift the gears. You have to learn what a gear splitter is. You have to learn, how to lock the differential to get you out of mud. You have to learn to use the winch to, like, when you're really stuck, you have to use the winch to pull your truck out of the very, very deep mud. You have to learn. It's pretty cool. It's like being in the Russian taiga, being a logger in the Russian taiga. And I think there's now one called Snow Runner, which is somewhat similar, but it's snow instead of mud. Um, One that is really addictive is PC Building Simulator. Play PC Building Simulator for 10 or 20 hours, and you will understand what you're looking at when you open your PC. I mean, it's very, it's all the brands are real. It's a lot of different scenarios. Plus, it's about running a small business as well. So, although you can do a sandbox mode that just lets you build PCs, but it's a real education. There's one called Police Stories, in which right, it's called Stories, and it really is a narrative game, but it's a top-down game. So these tend to be very simple graphically, by the way. But if there's something you want to use that won't run on your machine, you're welcome to use the machines in the lab. And people have asked about getting into the lab. You can just request to get into the lab at the circulation desk, and they'll send somebody up with you and let you in. Just don't screw things up, or Jay will fucking kill you. And I don't think, I'm not kidding when I say that. Like Jay runs that place with an iron fist, and he really does a good job. So Police Stories is a sort of top-down, very simple graphically, but it gives you a chance to sort of experience use of force and very quick decision making and understanding the dynamics of clearing a house and stuff. There's another not dissimilar one called Prison Architect, in which you have to build a prison that functions, and that doesn't get overwhelmed and stuff like that. And I've actually, one of my good friends is actually a jailer, and he's sort of amazed by the dynamics in Prison Architect. There's one called Radio Commander, which is by the same people who made 911 Operator, and you are a butter bar lieutenant in Vietnam, and you are controlling a combat squad via the radio. They call in to you and tell you what their situation is, and then you issue orders, and then you get to listen to the results of your orders. And if they're not good, you get to listen to the people under your command die. There's a slightly more graphically difficult one called Ready or Not, which is basically a SWAT simulator. And you can play it with up to 4 people. So if 4 of you want to get together and buy copies of Ready or Not and play that together, or I'll play with you anytime. There are things like Sim City, Zoo Sims, theme park Sims. There's one that you might enjoy, and it's also co-op play, called Speaking Simulator. And you are an alien, and you have built a human robot, and you're trying to learn about human society by sending the robot on dates, and you have to make it speak and eat and things like that by manipulating buttons and levers and stuff like that, and your dates will go hilariously wrong, although probably not worse than real dates in many ways. And you can be two aliens, and it makes it a little easier to operate the human replica, because you have like one person can operate the eyes and the mouth, and the other person can do yeah, it's a really good one. It's a really good one.
What's it called again?
It's that is called Speaking Simulator. There's a really terrific one. I mean, at least from in terms of authenticity and that sort of thing, called The Hunter Call of the Wild. It has a blue million add-ons, but you don't need them. Um, uh, um, and it's just if you've ever kind of wondered, well, what it's like to hunt, that's about as close as you'll get. In terms of, you go to these, I don't know why my mouth has stopped moving. She just doesn't open her mouth very far.
Right?
I'm sorry, what, Catherine?
Maybe that's how anime girls are. Somebody who knows
I think
more
it
about
is.
anime
I think
girls.
I just opened my mouth wider than the animes. There are, there's a really very funny, strange game called Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. And for instance, I used it to find out how many hobbits it takes to kill a woolly mammoth. And the answer is about 500, and not very many of them survive. But it really is like watching ants swarm a rhino beetle or something like that. Like, it's pretty entertaining to watch the hobbits. But like at 100, the mammoth just takes them out. So it's not actually a very accurate battle simulator, but it says it's totally accurate. Let me look. But these are all, fairly. There's Car Mechanic Simulator, and we have that in VR. But it's also a 2D game. But it's if you've ever wondered, like, how do you change your oil, or how do you change a, tire, or, what is it like to take the exhaust out of a car? It's really, really. We have another called Wrench. We have Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that's a very graphically intense game, particularly in VR. So if you want to play it, you probably would want to play that in the lab. There's a Fireworks Display Simulator. If you ever want to learn, like, what are the terms of art of fireworks. We've got Cooking Simulator VR. So it's cooking in VR, but there's also flat screen Cooking Simulator, if you've ever wanted to be on one of those cooking shows. American Truck Simulator, European Truck Simulator. Those are flat screens that are also VR games, and they're really effective VR games. One that you can get a demo for, that's fairly inexpensive, is Gas Station Simulator. And that was a hugely popular game, like insanely popular when it first came out. And it's exactly what it says. Like, you take over a shitty gas station and try to turn it into a nice gas station. And for those of you who you know disdain people who do that kind of thing, it might be an education. There's other things that we have at the lab, or you could buy yourself. We have Sophie's Safe Cracking Simulator. If you've ever wanted to learn to, yeah, no, Tropico's fine. Tropico's absolutely fine. You can decide. I'm not going to tell you what's a good simulator. I'm just giving you some suggestions from my experience, and some stuff that we have at the lab. Sophie's Safe Cracking Simulator like I say, cooking simulator VR. There we have ranch simulator, which is literally you try to run a ranch. Thief simulator VR, if you've ever wanted to break into people's houses, you can put on a VR headset and break into people's houses. So anyway, just and even just type simulator into Google or into um, any search engine or game engine, you're going to find a bunch of simulators. But I want you to pick one out over the break and get at least get a little start with it. There are streaming simulators where you can kind of you can pretend to be a streamer if you want to start practicing streaming before actually going on the stream. Just get a streaming simulator. Um, or when you come back, you could have a Twitch stream of you playing stream simulator. Um, you know, you can any of these simulators would actually be a pretty good stream. It's like Maggie says, like we know she's an expert hunter, so she goes into the hunter Call of the Wild and demonstrates for us all her methods of killing animals, and that kind of thing. Because we know, you can tell by looking at her, cold-blooded killer, no question about it. But that would be great. Like if Maggie said she was going to play Call of the Wild, the hunting simulator, an hour every week, I would absolutely tune into that. I would watch that. But so anyway, but pick a simulator that's something you think you might actually be interested in, or maybe something that's the opposite of something you might be interested in, right? I mean, I really want Catherine to be able to write about how to drive a bulldozer. Like I want Catherine to write a story from the point of view of a bulldozer operator. That would make me very happy. And we're gonna, I'm gonna show you the beginning of a story, a Theodore Sturgeon story, one of his early stories called Killdozer. Does anyone know Killdozer? Oh yeah, well, I mean yeah. I mean, but get used to driving combines. And the thing about the newer simulators is you learn, right? What was it Mike Bloomberg said? It's not hard to be a farmer. You just put some seeds in the ground and they just magically grow. And I mean, like contemporary farms are, really scientific. I mean, they use drones and ground penetrating radar and GPS, really precise GPS and stuff like that. Oh, so Oh no, your thing about Killdozer, that is the guy like in Colorado who built a tank out of a crawler. Yeah, the Killdozer, and it really is um, what you're talking about. That guy Heeman, wasn't his name Heeman? Um, yeah, yeah. He built he took about a 30-ton crawler and added steel plates and concrete armor to it, and stuff like that. And then he just smashed his town. But anyway, so that's Killdozer was actually a short story by Theodore Sturgeon about a crew. This is Sturgeon actually had this job about a crew of Seabees on a coral atoll during the Second World War in the Pacific, and they were building. They were just dropped off, this construction crew, and told they had like 3 weeks before anybody came back, and during that 3 weeks, they had to build an airstrip on this coral atoll. But then the story takes a turn because their D8 Caterpillar, which is a really huge bulldozer, gets taken over by kind of an ancient demon, and just starts killing them, and it just chases them all over the coral atoll. It's pretty great. Okay, well, it's 7:01. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. I would like to hear about that video game course at some point, Jody. Um, so presumably, if we got the times, if we got the times correct, uh, John will be coming back. So let's take a 5 minute break and gather your dream game materials. And when we come back, what you're going to do is you're going to just present them to us. One, like dream one, and then dream two. And you're not going to indicate in any way which is the real dream. And then we're going to see if we can tell which is real and which is a manufactured dream. Okay, so I'll see you back here at 7:07 or so, and I hope John joins us.
I mean, on a, physiological,
say, yeah,
psychological level.
give me that on a 1 to 10 scale.
Oh yeah,
Jody.
I'm at like 35 right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is Jody. So and also perhaps an interesting tidbit of trivia, but John is longtime friends with Holly Martin, who visited us 3 weeks ago now, maybe. So and that is how I met John, was through Holly.
Who is a really talented writer and a super cool person.
No, I agree. She's one of the all-time greats, but she's also, I mean, one of the things that I particularly like is that she again made her career outside of academia, right? She
Right.
figured out how to do all of the sort of business aspects, right? That writers in academia sort of refuse to deal with. Yeah, and as a consequence, it's very, very hard for them to have a career when they leave academia. But she had a business background and she was able, just to kind of figure shit out, right? So yeah, she has had a very interesting career. Okay, well, so we're back. We're gonna play the dream game. Um, yeah, I agree, Salam. I'm glad you felt that. Holly was delightful. Oh, okay, yeah. So Holly Sparkman, who is the other delightful Holly, is and she is literally half as tall as Holly Martin. In fact, we were wondering if Holly Martin was maybe just two Holly Sparkmans in a raincoat. So is the Dream app, so Holly Sparkman wants to know, is the Dream app live and available? Does it have a name?
It has a name. The name is Temenos Dream. Temenos means a sacred space. But it is on private beta right now. I think we're going to do a kind of soft launch to a public beta in about a month. So when I do that, I'll let Pinckney know, and I would love to have more users on it, because a lot of what I need to learn about what works and what doesn't, I can only learn from people using it and their feedback. So would love to get some good, honest feedback.
Well, I'd say hold off until you. Pardon me, gracious. Yeah, I'd say hold off until you hear their dreams. You might not want these people involved. I know what they write, and it's some of it is not acceptable. Okay, all right. So Temenos, a dreamt of woman trying. Yeah, well, I told you, wake up in the middle of, wake up at a time when you're not accustomed to waking up, but that's what you get. Now, one of the great things I will say about Temenos Dream is you just record your dreams by voice, and then it transcribes them.
Exactly. And you add a little thing where you just say, "Hey Google" or "Hey Siri," and then it just starts recording. So middle of the night, you grab it, say, "Hey Siri, record a dream," blab your dream, click stop, go back to sleep.
Yep.
And it transcribes it all.
Yeah, and reading the dreams is really cool. All right, so I am going to see here. I have made up a poll, and I want to see if I can just use it again and again. But I'm not really used to using polls, so let's. Did the poll come up for you all? Okay, great. So, well, who did that? Who fouled up my poll? Who voted on my poll? Damn it!
It was
Now
Kevin.
Now I have to end the poll, and then I have to start it again. No, but I can't get rid of Kevin. Damn it! All right, here we go. Wait a second. All right, now there is the poll. And Kevin, I can see by the way you're holding your mouth that you are considering fucking things up. And
I'll try to retain it from doing
don't.
that.
I will put you in a breakout room, and just you and me in a breakout room for the rest of the session. And you don't want that because I'm a bear and I'm a sheriff. Okay. All right. So here we go. Who's going to go first? Remember, you just say dream one, and then you read it to us, and then you say dream two, and then we will vote on which we think is which.
I like lottery better.
Oh, do you? Okay, we can do that. All right, that's fine. There we go. You need to get a higher res webcam, Salam.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And you don't get to vote, by the way.
Okay. Okay, dream one. I'm in my middle school classroom with my college friends as my classmates. I get called out by the teacher to pay attention, and I ask her why she did that since I was paying attention. She stays silent for the entire rest of the class. Everyone around me starts staring at me, then I'm finally kicked out of the classroom. I go to my middle school principal's office and try to explain what happened, but she doesn't give me a chance to talk. I leave the principal office's room and suddenly I'm on the first floor of the house I grew up in Jordan. I go out to the garden and see my dad start playing. We sit on a bench, then two of my college friends show up to hug me and say goodbye. Dream two. I walk through the aisles of a gas station in Japan and pick up some tomato sauce. I go to the checkout and my sibling is at the check register. I ask them why they're working there and why they're not at the movie shoot they were hired to work on recently. They act like they don't know who I am, and I get angry. I throw the tomato sauce at them and leave the store. Mom is standing right outside. I tell her about what happened, and she tells me that I'm overreacting.
Okay, vote. Dream one is real or dream two is real? Oh, neck and neck? It's absolutely neck and neck. Oh, now dream two is taken off. Okay. All right. So dream two is really getting is really way ahead of dream one. Oh, somebody just sympathy voted for dream one. Okay, so it's 70-30. Now, before somebody who before Salam reveals the truth to us, and in some ways I'm tempted to actually not have her tell us which is which, but somebody who voted for Dream One, tell us why.
It felt a lot more intimate and a lot more personal. There's a lot of very specific moments where one person's moving from one place to another place to another place. And I find, at least in my dreams, that I tend to move between places that are important to me a lot instead of staying in one place in a dream.
So okay,
Two
so
felt too logical.
which one did? Dream Two?
Two. Yeah, I kind of along that same line. It felt like it had too much of a through line.
Yeah, it seemed very. I would have voted for Dream One because Dream Two felt like a constructed scene. So okay, so whoop, there we go. Salam, was it one or two?
Dream one is real.
Dream One was real.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Great. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Let's see.
Oh boy. All right.
person who emerges from a dream every Tuesday afternoon to come join us.
I sure do. And it's not because I sleep before this class. All right. So dream one. Hold on. All right. Dream one. So it starts with me playing Street Fighter in my old living room in Wisconsin. I pick Chun-Li. It's December outside. I fight my father and break his nose. Then I escape on Mr. Plow from The Simpsons, if you know what that is. It's like a big plow. It says Mr. Plow just like on the side. It looks exactly the same as it does in the cartoon. The police chase me down, and then I park outside of Feiner. Except the interior of Feiner was a nightclub that I went to in St. Louis. The only things that are served there were some red drink of some kind. And I was yelled at for spilling the drink on a carpet.
Okay, so that's dream one.
Yes.
And do feel free to engage in the public chat, right? This is not church. You can make fun of people for the bizarre content of their dreams. People should always be embarrassed about their dreams.
I always am.
Publicly.
All right.
Very healthy for society. Okay, dream two.
Dream two, I am in a school talent show. I am playing drums for a goth rock band. We're playing a song for the first time ever, and we're using sheet music to play. The crowd goes wild, and we do some strange dance moves. And then inexplicably, I am back at KFC, which was at once my previous job. I have bleached my hair and put weird colors through it. After that, it's the day after that, I believe, I bought a box of random stuff from CVS. Some of those things were prescription meds. I felt bad, so I tried to see whose meds these were, and I tried to return it to them. As I was driving, I was driving in a very long car. I remember that I was very worried that the car was so long and so close to the ground that it was really hard to drive. So I was doing that, and then I returned these medications, and when I got home, I was worried about being late for my job at KFC. I was taking a long time to find my uniform, and then after that, I just gave up and decided that I was going to quit. That is dream two.
Okay, let me put up the poll here if I can make it happen. Oh, damn it. There we go. That's how we do it. Okay, and you all can see the poll results in front of you or no? You can. Okay, great. Okay, dream one is off to the races. Dream one's still holding a lead. Oh, I think he would. Yeah, Feiner is like a dream. It is a dream. I mean, there is no real place called Feiner. Okay, so it's 70-30, dream one versus dream two. And we won't keep doing this, but I'm just interested in folks' reasoning, particularly here at the beginning. We'll start to go faster as we go along. But somebody who voted for dream one, what about dream one convinced you? I mean, 7 out of 10 of you voted for it.
I think it's about the second dream. I mean, I definitely see Kevin bleaching his hair in a dream. So I was like, yep, that's probably right. He's probably thinking about bleaching his head. So I didn't even think about dream one, but yeah.
Okay, all right. Somebody else. Just give us your reasoning, right? And so much of this is instinctual. Yeah, for me, it tends to be a feeling. There's often like one thing that stands out to me that I think, yes, that's uninventable. That is a dream image.
The logic of the KFC stuff really spoke to me. Like it felt like that kind of anxiety dream of being late for work, or like letting down something felt really, yeah, I mean, it just felt like the kinds of dreams that I have all the time.
Being
So I
late
bought
for
that one.
work. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
Wait, do we get to know which one it is?
Oh, see, I don't even care. Like I just like hearing the dreams. So, but which one was real, Kevin?
Dream 2.
Dream
Y-
2
Oh.
was the real one.
Yes. So
See? All right.
yeah, I have a
Y'all
lot
are
of
not
dreams
very
about
good at this.
I have a lot of dreams about work and being late.
All right. Let's see.
Okay. Let's go.
But this is so much like your app, John.
I know, and I'm embarrassed. I've been wrong 2 out of 2 times. I'm gonna try and go for 100% wrong here.
Well, it just tells you how talented these folks are.
Clearly.
Their dreams are better than real dreams. Okay. Go ahead, Dejane.
Okay, so dream 1. Welcome to the Devil's Game Show, the host cackled. I'm your host, the devil himself. The studio audience laughed. They were chained to their seats and their mouths were slit to a wide smile. Now, let's see what's in store for our contestants today. The first contestant was me. I had on a blue dress. I felt small and timid. What do you have for us today, devil? I asked. There was a lump in my throat. How about a game of Russian roulette? The devil replied. 1 bullet in 6 chambers, your choice of revolver. I hesitated. I didn't know if I could do this, I said. I don't know if I can do this, I said. I was literally shaking in place. You can do it, or you can leave, the devil said. It's your choice. He had crazed eyes and a wide smile. I took a deep breath and chose a revolver. I spun the chamber and pulled the trigger. Click. You live, the devil yelled. But don't get too comfortable. The next contestant is up. I projectile vomited on my left-hand side. I didn't bother to move as it rolled up to my feet. The next contestant was a big man. I'm ready for anything, he said. How about a game of chicken? The devil replied. Jump out of that window and see who chickens out first. The man hesitated. I don't know if I can do this, he said. You can do it or you can leave, the devil said. It's your choice. The man took a deep breath and chose to jump. He plummeted towards the ground, but at the last second he chickened out and flew back into the studio. You lose, the devil exclaimed. But don't worry, you can always try again. I woke up. Dream 2. I was in the library with my lover. We met a guy who worked there. The worker said that the answers to all of our questions would propel us further. All we have to do is just take it. So we dispersed in the library. He gave us an example. He grabbed someone's notebook and read it, and then instructed us to do it. So I saw opportunities for grabbing. There were people's secrets that were jotted in their notebooks. I saw one that said Harold's chicken was originally Chuckles. In people's notes, they had secrets, and I felt guilty for stealing them because I too wrote notes and thoughts in my journals, and I thought it was an invasion of their privacy, but I still did it. So I grabbed the journal that was highlighted, and it had markings. I didn't get a chance to read if it was actually prevalent to me, but it just felt right enough to take. Some blonde guy followed me into a study room, so I exposed the content to the man, but I pulled out other works from my backpack that were similarly highlighted, just to throw him off. It seemed to have done that. The blonde guy started to tell me a story about a person who was saved. So then 2 other golf girls came in and stood by his side while he told me the story. He seemed like he wanted me to agree with him. And I said, well, and he said no, with a shocked expression, and then stormed off to the bathroom that was 3 feet behind me. The girls started to back up to the doorway. So I asked the girls, so you guys believe in demons and shit? They then took a moment and said, well, yeah. So I said, so God's not real? How could he not be real? They had an epiphany. It anchored me. I levered past them and plopped onto the bed that was in the study room. Ponder that for a moment and get back to me. I was through with the conversation. I went towards my things. I woke up.
Okay, dream 1 is real, dream 2 is real. And some people voted early. Don't do that. All right, so 10 people. We've got, yeah, probably. So 10% say dream 1 is real. 90%, a whopping 90% say dream 2 is real. Which is real, Dejanay?
Dream 2.
Dream 2 is real. All right. Very good. All right. And so let's see. I'm just going to kind of keep going here because I want to hear everybody's dreams.
Okay.
See, this is why I came as a sheriff, Ismail, because you're in jail. I just feel so bad. Can you, I don't know, hang a blanket or
No, I refuse. I mean, at least they gave us Wi-Fi, so.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we've got 2 dreams here. We've got a lot of dreams, well, you know. All right, so the first dream is a guy in a blue shirt. He has his hands out. There's a gun, and he shoots me in the chest. I'm holding the wound, and suddenly I just take the gun from his hand, and I start shooting him until I make sure that he's dead. I keep holding the wound and basically start searching for a place to go. I'm telling myself I need to go to the hospital, but then if I can walk it off, I'll be good. I just keep walking and walking until I feel good, and then I go home. That's dream 1. Dream 2 is I was driving a car and I hit an old man. I tried to check on him, and he told me to run him again. He was good, everything was fine, but he was like, just run me again. I kept doing it over and over, but he wouldn't die. And there's something wrong. He tells me that there's something wrong with the wheels. And I'm like, no, it's definitely you. And he asked me if I wanted to drive the car, and he gets behind the wheels. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Remind me not to ever be in your dreams. Okay, dream 2 is off to an early lead. Yeah, dream 2 is walking away with it. All right, so we have 20% say dream 1 is real, 80% say dream 2 is real. So, Ismail, which is which?
Actually, it's dream 1.
Dream 1 is the real dream. Bryce Patterson for the win.
Bryce knows me too well. That's it.
Yeah, I mean they were, but all right. Well, I'm not going to get into commentary because then we'll never ever get to everybody if I start talking.
Hi. So I don't usually dream about myself or in the first person, so this might be a little bit weird. But dream 1, a dog is off the leash in the streets of my hometown. It starts off running just to be running, and then eventually it is being chased by something. So it's running to get away. Dream 2, a family is at a harbor on a bright day, packing up a fishing boat for a trip. They keep adding things into the boat until it begins to sink.
Oh, dream 1, running away with it. Okay, so this seems like our average split is Dream 1 is real 80%, Dream 2 is real 20%. So Maggie, which is real?
The second one.
The second one. Wow. Okay. That's a Pareto curve. Thank you. Good callback, Catherine. You get an A. All right. Okay. Good.
Hey. All right. Dream 1. I was sitting in my office in the English department. I still didn't know what my job was. The phone rang and I panicked because I had no idea how to answer it, and suddenly I couldn't even remember the name of my supervisor. I fumbled in my wallet for his business card, found it, and walked back to the desk with the phone. I took so long thinking about what I would say that it stopped ringing while I stood there staring at the receiver. I went back to my book. Dream 2. I was putting in my contacts next to a woman I knew from England. She mentioned something offhand about her partner, and I was suddenly surprised that she'd slept with me. I could see a little curved divot in the lens on my finger. I tried putting it in my eye anyway. It hurt, so I looked at it again, and now it was ripped in 4 places. I felt suddenly lumbering and unattractive as I threw it in the trash and reached for my glasses.
Ooh, dead heat. Oh, there goes Dream 1. Okay, another 80-20 split. Our traditional split. Dream 1 is real, got 80%. Dream 2 is real, got 20%. Bryce, which one?
Dream 2 is real. Dream 1 is a true story.
Okay. So your actual life seems to others more like a dream than your dream did.
It was a Kafka-esque day.
Little Vanilla Sky going on.
Ouch.
Okay. Dream 1. In the old mall I used to go to with all the brown carpeted ramps that were real shallow and led from the floors to the food court, except it wasn't a mall anymore, and it was kind of inside and outside at the same time. There were trees and dirt and stuff everywhere in the walkways, and there was hardly anyone there, but I was with people I used to work with. They could see me and were trying to talk to me, but I wasn't talking back. Like, my mouth was goopy and full. I kept trying to grab for a necklace I had because I kept thinking it was lost, but when I did that, my neck kept getting scratched. The mall kept getting dark and light, and it was like the other people were on a stakeout and wandering around, but they didn't have any weapons, and the stores were crammed full of stuff. And I was searching and searching, and there was this buzzing. The buzzing was at like regular intervals, but it was real low. And I thought the buzzing was an alarm and something to do with the necklace. That's 1. And 2, something with an established fruit and veg stand for hippies. There was a sale on acorn squash seeds, but people were getting the tiny little squashes instead. A couple and a little kid walked past, and one of the people was saying, "Back in my day." Then something having to do with one of the English professors who had a bunch of musical instruments that we were helping unpack. And there were also these bins of water, like wash tubs at a restaurant, but longer. And then there was like magazines and journals in nylon zipper pouches, but the pouches could wrap up and curl up into a tube. And I wasn't sure if they could get wet, but they were getting wet. And I asked if I should unbox or unpack something, like more instruments. And one was like a wire basket. And me asking was like me being a jerk just for asking. So eyebrows were raised. Then there was a job like the reception area of where I work now, but I was entry level, not doing what I do now. Like, and there were cubicles, and an old boss from a different job was there asking me something, and there was something else, something red.
Wow. Okay. That one is hard. Wait a second. Here we go. Oh, oh, going back and forth, back and forth. Ooh, 50-50. Bam. That's the sweet spot. I would say
Nice.
that's the sweet spot, right? Because if people can't tell, yeah. Okay. All right. So, Holly, your listeners are. It's a dead even split. Which one is the real dream?
2 is real.
Okay, 2 is the dream. So there you go. The mall, the mall convinced me because the lights kept going on and off, and that felt so. All right.
Dream 1. I'm riding a bike on a busy street that is simultaneously familiar in the dream, but I know I haven't been there before. It flashes into a room in a house I lived in 20 years ago, but with my husband now, not my husband then. And people I know now keep showing up and knocking at the door. I know there is something important I need to leave the house and do, but people keep showing up. And I fall further and further behind, constantly feeling like I won't achieve this vague task that must be done. Dream 2. I am loading groceries on the weirdest conveyor belt ever. It is essentially an escalator, and the groceries keep traveling up and around and cycling because no one is actually unloading them. There's a sense of urgency as the groceries keep going up and around. Suddenly, I am in another room, and my youngest child is a toddler, but my brain knows that they are grown up and not a toddler anymore, so is constantly pulling that thought into my consciousness throughout the dream.
Dream 2 pulling away. Is it going to be another 80-20? Yes, another 80-20. Dream 1 is at 20% real. Dream 2 is at 80% real. Jody, which was the real dream?
Dream 2 was the made up one. So I read them in reverse order. So the one with the bike and all of the anxiety with the house guests showing up was the made up one. So it was 2.
Hi. So I've realized since I've like overwritten it a little because I know we weren't supposed to. I didn't analyze, but I made it a little too pretty. So I'm going to try to kind of speed run through this. So dream 1, I'm in a grocery store. There are fluorescents, so I'm not really perceiving the space. I never do. I'm kind of going through it. There's a friend who works there. I don't really see her face, but I know it's her from like hair and general familiarity with another person. She scans items that I have and like relabels them, and she marks it down to each being a cent. And I'm like, won't the cashier notice? Both you and I are going to get yelled at. But she doesn't stop. Does it for turkey, does it for like a unrealistically sized piece of fish. I blink. I'm like, okay. I kind of meander off it becomes like that weird grocery store kind of like shop area where they're like, let's try to sell earrings in this place. They have those like raw wood pencils that are like, fundamentally not any more superior to like cheap ones, but nonetheless they have them. I'm looking at them. The packaging is weird, where I'm trying to figure out if it's been stolen or if that's how it's meant to look. They're overpriced, but I kind of want them. I keep going. Like there becomes furniture. There's a like low table, coffee table kind of. I look at the shelf, the drawer. I investigate it. I pull it out. I continue to investigate it. Has a second drawer. Won't really come out. I push everything back. I see a second friend. She doesn't really talk to me. I go on. Like it becomes more and more furniture heavy and book heavy, and I investigate like a collection of books where I'm like, can I get this in my car without dividing them, and why does it bother me to divide them? Like we go deeper, it gets dimmer. We reach the end. There's like a door to a storage area, and I can kind of see the outline of things, but not them themselves. But I realize that I have no interest in it. We end up in a pizza place. I get into an argument with a man. I end up outside. Suddenly, like it's a very like white stone area, but there are also pools, but I don't smell chlorine. I think briefly of yachts. I walk kind of alongside the pool. I want to get somewhere. I want to get somewhere before I use my car. I end up kind of swimming, and that's sort of the end of it. Second dream, I'm in the ocean. Oh my god, these would hook together. I didn't realize that. I'm in the ocean at night. I'm kind of walking through it. It's not really sand, it's more pebbles, and I'm uncomfortable at that, but I have like motivation to be going somewhere. I meditate briefly on just the concept of the ocean. I'm worried about it. I keep going. The ground kind of like I have it like the water does not rise, but rather the ground slopes. I worry about that, but I keep going. Eventually, it kind of gives way, and I start to like I don't really remember exiting the water, but I'm in an art museum. I'm not damp. I have no awareness of that, but I'm kind of there. I don't see the art, not in any way that matters, but I can kind of discern the outline of its place. I don't remember stopping, but I'm on a bench and I'm talking to someone from high school who I didn't like, and she didn't like me. And we kind of not reconcile per se, but come to a mutual understanding of like, were we preordained to dislike each other? Kind of not really. Mutual understanding. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember her leaving. Once we understood each other, I'm just kind of in a space, white halls. I'm going towards them. I keep going. I am going. Was that coherent at all, either of them?
Okay. (70-30 split, so not quite the 80-20. Dream 1 is real, is 70%. Dream 2 is real, is 30%. Which of these was the real dream, Alexis?
Dream 1.
Dream 1 was real. Okay. It was a tough one. That would have been hard to pick, I think. All right. And
Okay. Dream 1. I'm on the landing of the front stairs of a house looking at a picture. It's a scene from the Middle Ages of a sleeping musician and some fine ladies. Rose, who's on a sleepover, is afraid of this picture and won't go down the stairs. I'm racking my brain to convince her to come down the stairs. We're 5 or 6. Then I hear pounding feet and I'm running down the stairs and my hand's sliding lightly down the banister, which is wider than my hand and smooth. I jump over the last 2 steps because I can hear Eric gaining on me. He yanks my hair, which is waist length, and going out behind me. I yank my hair back while still running and run shrieking out the porch door into the yard, then down the hill, still running, then jump off the concrete retaining wall and land perfectly and just keep running. Instead of running straight into our woods, I skied off to the right and run into Haverhall's woods. I know Eric has given up following me, so I stop partway down, a little way from MLK Street, plop down with my legs bent to each side in V shapes. I start picking the tiny blue flowers that grow down there. I make a careful bouquet, lining up all the stems perfectly parallel, even though they are skinny, hard not to bend, and hard to hold. I get up to go sideways, as I think of it, through the woods, toward a vacant lot next to Foster's. I want to find 3 small animal gravestones that are there. It's going to be hard to find these gravestones. I roam around looking for a specific path, which I think I saw one time. I zigzag up and down the river bluff. Then I see a skinny, small white thing like a straw, but not a straw, sticking up through the leaves. It looks sharp. I'm thinking it's a cat bone. I realize my flowers are missing. Then I realize I brought somebody else into the woods with me. My daughter, Gwen, a toddler. But now where is she? I can't see her anywhere. I was running. How could I have jumped down the stairs and off the wall while carrying Gwen? Could I have dropped her when I was running down those steps? I'm racking my brains. I'm grown up now. Did I actually just run down those stairs? I remember it so clearly. I start to run around the woods, searching for Gwen, and I'm trying to scream for her, but I can't get the sound out. I frantically wonder if I should run up to the house and look on the stairs or find the rest of the family to come and help look. But I think I see her almost down at MLK Street. I tear down to the bottom of the hill, but she's not there, and the street is totally deserted and stretches off into an incredibly far distance. As I run back up the hill while trying to scream and trying to understand why I would run down dangerous stairs while holding Gwen, I start waking up and gradually realize with growing joy that Gwen is grown up and safe and sound back at Pasadena. Dream 2. I'm in a beat-up white sedan, parked by a small one-story shingle house that I'm staying in, which is in the middle of a large asphalt parking lot. Holly comes up and tells me that the devil is making an appearance and wreaking havoc around here, so be careful. I'm scared but disbelieving. But then, as I back up my car, it swerved for no reason, and I hit something, possibly the back of the house. Did the devil cause this? Holly wanted to release a mouse into the house to find out if the devil was in it. Apparently, the devil has an easier time crushing or killing small, weak things, so if the mouse survived, we'd probably be okay too. However, I didn't want the mouse to be killed, and the thought of a mouse being in the house freaked me out as well. Then somehow I was afraid for my kids. Now Holly, standing near the asphalt parking lot, nearby in the asphalt parking lot, was comforting somebody, giving them a hug. I couldn't see who it was, but it was someone who seemed dangerously thin. Holly and the other person were both so skinny that clenched in the hug, they seemed about the width of one person. I was running around the parking lot, trying to determine if I could drive without the devil's further interference. Porch furniture was sitting on the asphalt in front of the house, and it appeared to be getting violently knocked over of its own accord. The devil was probably doing it. I went up to see who Holly was comforting, and it was my daughter, Patty. How did she get so thin? And why wasn't I comforting her? I did get a hug from her, and then I woke up.
All right. Dream 1, Dream 2. Okay, Dream 1's running away with it. Okay, our familiar 80-20 split. The class thinks Dream 1 was real by 8 to 2. So, Catherine, which one was real?
Dream 2 was real. The devil and Holly. Although, in fairness, when I was younger and my kids were little, I had a lot of dreams about losing my children. So I haven't lately.
No, it makes sense when you're making up a dream. You would want to use. And what, Holly Sparkman or Holly Martin?
Holly Sparkman.
Oh, okay. All right.
I wasn't sure I should use someone in the class in my dream. I mean, like admit to it or whatever. But then I thought, okay, we have to tell the real dream. So I
Yes,
did.
absolutely. No, that's a really big deal. And one of the things that I'm enjoying about John's app is people are very forthcoming in their dreams in a way I was actually kind of surprised by. That they really are telling truths or seem to be. Well, that was great. I like the dreams and I like the made up dreams. I dream of embarrassing Bryce. Oh, don't we all dream of harassing Bryce? Mine are waking dreams, fantasies. Okay, so John went away. Oh, he turned on a light. Okay, good.
He's coming back.
He had become a kind of dream figure.
Right.
Okay, well, so it's 7:54 here. We're theoretically we get out at 8:30, but I would be happy to end early. Would anybody be offended? Let's why don't we take a few moments and talk to John if you're willing to stay. Will you stay a few more minutes, John?
Sure.
Okay. And if you have questions for John, and it seems to me that there are a lot, you can have questions about Jung, about dreams, about the Dream app, about developing an app. You could ask him to tell the true, to reveal the real Holly Martin. There are a lot of avenues here. So why don't we just take a few minutes since we've got John and ask him some questions if you have questions.
I do have a question about the app itself and kind of like the sales pitch. Are you pitching it as get to know yourself better through delving into your dreams, or is it just a way to kind of dump stuff out of your brain to kind of relieve anxiety? How exactly are you pitching the use of the app?
Yes. Believe it or not, I actually used to be in marketing and in product marketing, and I really just don't know yet how to pitch it. I also don't know yet who the users are, because there's one theory that they should be this group of users, another theory it should be this group. Lots of different folks have indicated some interest in it, so it's all kind of early, and I'm trying to just kind of discover that and kind of build something and see who shows up. So I'm really not sure. I think for me, the value of it is as overall, it's kind of a way to just engage with your own unconscious in a more conscious way, in a more consistent way. And I tend to think that has a positive follow-on effect in my life and in general. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't know quite how to pitch that. I haven't figured that out yet. I think there are lots of positives from it, but I've got to clearly, hone my message on it, but I don't know yet.
Ismail?
Yeah, thank you so much, John. I think my question is it was similar to what Holly's talked about, but I'm kind of curious about the science behind it. I feel like if you think about like an MVP, like if you're trying to actually pitch like a product, like to anyone, I feel like working with dreams is like something. I mean, if you look at Pinckney, he's always like, don't write dreams in your stories, or I'm just gonna take it out, So I feel like it's frowned upon. Like I feel like a lot of people would be questioning the legitimacy of like such things if it's not science backed. So like, I mean, I would love to learn more about the science behind it and kind of like what do you feel like the rationalizing part of it, like how can it work to convince people that this is something that they can actually benefit from?
It's an excellent question, because the thing about that I've found in talking with people about dreams, and I usually talk about it from a Jungian perspective, is people tend to have well, some people have a pretty visceral reaction to it, and it can be pretty viscerally negative. And the fact of the matter is, um, I can't point to a bunch of science to say this is true because of X, Y, Z, and all of these studies and so forth. The thing that I would point to is to say, try it, see whether it resonates. All of it is kind of spaghetti against a wall. If it sticks, great. If it doesn't, so what? Leave it. But in my experience, there are elements of it that really stick and that really kind of make a difference. And my argument is kind of along the lines of to remember that the I don't know, the Victorians in 18 whatever really honestly believed that science had discovered everything there was to discover, and that everything going forward was just going to be little minor tweaks, and that they've already established everything, and and we know almost everything that we're going to know, and therefore this is how the world is and this is how we go forward. My personal impression is that we are in a similar state of arrogance as the Victorians, because we would all look at them and be like, that's absurd. They hadn't discovered, Einstein, general relativity, quantum physics, anything, any bazillion things, combined with the idea that 90+% of the universe is either dark matter or dark energy, which we have no idea what that is. And so to imagine that that there aren't things that science can't explain, or that are not easily quantifiable, is, I think, to imagine, I don't know, is to take such a narrow view of the world. And so that's part of kind of how I look at it. But from a science standpoint, it's hard. I mean, frankly, psychology from a science standpoint is pretty weak across the board. Things are very difficult to replicate, and to statistically bear out. So my argument on it is, if it resonates, give it a try. Or give it a try, and if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, okay, no big deal. I'm not going to try and prove it to anybody. It's really just, does this feel right?
Great.
Can I add something to that, John? Like, I think what I meant is that there are different systems that have their own understanding of what dreams are, and I feel like, I mean, I understand like your whole kind of analogy behind like throwing it and seeing if it sticks and what kind of like something resonates, but like kind of like you going head to head against all these systems where like they already have established meanings of these dreams. And I feel like what keeps dreams floating and dreams as fluid is the fact that, I mean, different religions, different beliefs, different kind of like institutions, different, everyone has their own set of ideas of what dreams are. And I feel like going head to head to them, I feel like that's what my question, like, how do you kind of like establish yourself as something different, something that's why kind of like I referred back to science, because at the end of the day, I mean, traditionally, culturally Muslim, like, and a lot of times, like, people talk about how dreams are actually, are messages from God or messages somewhere else. Well, I mean, which is, whether you agree with it or not, they understand that and they believe in that. And if you look at places like Colombia, like, magical realism, kind of like blending, like, reality with dreams. Why I asked about science is because I want to understand kind of like, where do you want it to be, in a sense? Where do you see yourself going against all these systems of beliefs in that sense?
Okay. I think it's a great question. I think that dreams have an enormous amount of connection and tie to the culture that you've been brought up in, or the culture that you sort of genetically are. And as a result, a dream dreamed by someone, in I don't know, Kazakhstan, is going, the same dream dreamed by someone in LA is going to be very, very different in terms of what the meanings are and how that works, for a ton of different reasons, but not the least of which is we each kind of work with our own cultural, I don't know, kind of trappings and what we've been brought up with. And so one of the things that I want to try and do with the app is to, right now I've got kind of, you put things into the app and so forth, and it says, oh, this symbol might mean this. But that's sort of one dream encyclopedia, or symbolism encyclopedia. What I want to do is have another one, for from an Indian perspective, from a Muslim perspective, from a Judaica perspective, another from a Chinese perspective, and so that you can choose which things resonate most with you, and then you can go back through the kind of mythology and symbolisms that connect to those cultures and just kind of choose whichever ones that work for you and to kind of connect to that. But and in that sense, I don't want to go against and say this means that therefore, because I think that just breaks the whole thing. Like dreams at the end of the day, culture by culture by culture is one way of kind of breaking it down, but really you would break it down further into, an almost infinite breakdown, that each dream is specific to each individual, and that it just gets kind of tighter and tighter and tighter, or smaller, not smaller, but more specific, because each individual has their own mythology that they kind of live through. So I don't know, it's sort of convoluted answer, but that's kind of the way I think about it. That the goal is not to say everybody has to be this way or that way. The goal is to say there are, a ton of different ways to be, and the most important part about all of this is to try and find and kind of create and discover your own mythology and your own set of symbolism and what that means to you. So that's kind of the goal, which is sort of absurdly large, by the way. But why not?
Your reach should exceed your grasp.
Oh, don't worry about that.
All right, Catherine, you had a question?
Yeah, this isn't quite as interesting as that last question. Maybe this is related though. Just, I haven't researched this at all, but I'm just curious what like the communities are now, like at least in the United States, or online communities that are interested in dreams, and what they're kind of doing, if anything, about dreams amongst themselves.
Yeah, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't really know that much about it. There is a Reddit group, like r/dreams or dreamers or something along those lines. And there are about 250,000 members of that. And on any given day, they add about 100 dreams and so forth. But from what lurking that I've done there, it's sort of, I don't know, it doesn't seem as generative as I would hope it to be. Or I know there's a Facebook group, dream oriented, that's about 10,000 members or thereabouts. But I've been off Facebook for a while, so I've got to get in and see that more closely. So I just don't know. I'm just kind of doing my own thing a little bit blindly.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
Yep.
Kevin?
All right. So I really love like this whole discussion around dreams in a very symbolic sort of sense and everything like that. But like I'm kind of always just stuck with the fact that like dreams are ultimately like a biological process, just like everything else. And like the fact that I don't know, I think of like there are dream disorders, like having consistent night terrors, or like having really weird and uncommon like dreams after you like take medications, things like that. Um, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, if like with this app, does it like consider like the potential like biological slash medical aspects of like what these dreams could mean, or like kind of like recording your dreams and like kind of seeing trends, things like that, almost.
Yes and no. Um, uh, it, it it does not, and certainly will not, purport to be a scientific assessment of, um, or a biological assessment of dreams and what they might mean and how they are specifically related to your health or your daily life or any of that stuff. That's just it's just way beyond me. B, I know nothing about it. And C, therefore, the but I do have an ambition in the app. Kind of one of the smaller ambitions is to enable it such that if you've put in 10 or 12 dreams or something along those lines, or 100 dreams or something or other, that it will go through and do a sort of meta-analysis of those dreams and go and say, all right, here are your top 12 symbols that come up consistently, and here you can go and reference them in each of your different dreams, and help someone kind of do a bit of a higher level, like with me, like I always dream about bears. I've dreamt about bears since I was about 9 years old. And so they have a very consistent theme through my dream life. And to be able to kind of pull all of my dreams together and see, oh yeah, that one, that sort of gives me a little bit of a way to sort of step up a little bit higher on the thing and look at it from that sort of standpoint. And then hopefully in time to be able to work with some people who are really good at that stuff, and then to be able to go and say, all right, across 10,000 people and 100,000 dreams, here are certain things that keep popping up and certain things that keep occurring. And I think that's just interesting, because I don't think we've ever had an opportunity to do that across a large scale. But of course, that assumes that the dream app succeeds and people put stuff in and all that kind of jazz. But I think that's interesting from that standpoint. But I do not kind of purport to be like, okay, statistically, biologically, any of these things, therefore I know this, because I don't.
Bryce, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm forming my question because I think it's kind of abstract in a way. I think what like our conversation has me thinking about is like the kind of what you referenced, that like dreams are like, both there's like a symbology that's like cultural but also kind of like individual to your own life.
Yep.
And how interesting that is like a writing tool, that it's like, rather than working with like whatever symbolic set we're used to for characters, like thinking in terms of those really individual symbolisms and how they work. And I guess it has me just thinking about like how I guess I'm interested in just like what like role do dreams play in your writing, and have you thought about like that kind of crossover of like the app itself working as a tool for kind of enriching your writing?
Yeah, so there's a really good book, kind of an older book by a guy named Robert Johnson, called Inner Work. And it's a lot about dream analysis from a Jungian perspective. And then it's the back half of it is about the Jungian kind of practice of what they call active imagination, which is really just the practice of sitting down and sort of having a fantasy discussion with characters from dreams, or with whoever comes up, kind of whatever comes up, and having a debate and going kind of back and forth with those kinds of individuals. And I have written some of the few of the things that are the best things that I've written have come out of that kind of discussion, because it's bringing your conscious self into sort of contact with some odd fantasy of yours and having a dialogue with you as yourself, and kind of a fight with sometimes this other character, which is sort of some part of you, but heaven knows where it comes from. And that tends to, I don't know, for me, I've found that as honestly the only fruitful way that I can come up with really creative stuff that I actually like, that feels not so much that I like, but that feels sort of genuine and beyond what I'm just like trying to scrawl, and be creative about. Um, so anyway, so that's one recommendation, and that's how it's worked for me. Um,
I'm curious a little bit about lucid dreaming.
yeah,
My son
and
was fascinated with it for a while and was really trying actively. And I know I've been able to control a dream maybe once, but some people swear by it. So I'm kind of curious how all that fits in with.
yeah, and
what
I really don't know that much about it. I had the same kind of thing, the same kind of experience. My kid was very, very interested in it. And I think it actually is a little bit similar to the active imagination side of things, is trying to get yourself into a state where you are both conscious, but also engaging the unconscious at the same time, and what you can do with those two things. And I just don't know that much about it, other than from this perspective of kind of old school active imagination stuff by Jung. So I think it's interesting.
Thanks, me too. My dreams, like I've been kind of commenting, sorry, in the chat, I have the most neurotic, boring, like if it can be an anxiety attack where I'm late for something or trying to get somewhere, without fail, that's the that's the dream I'll have and remember.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the lucid dream or active imagination, things, that's sort of one of the strategies of trying to understand a dream, is how do you dream it forward? How do you take characters out of the dream and then create a story around them, create a fantasy around them? And no matter, and the most important part about that is to not get hung up on, oh, this sounds silly, or this is contrived, or this is so goofy, or what, that's just ridiculous. I can't be talking to a kitten while I'm having a fight with a bear. That's just the dumbest thing in the world. True to me. But to try and just, because no matter how ridiculous it is, this is still you, and sort of let that stuff in, and then see what it does, see where it goes, and have full faith that it's not going to give you some, output, but it might shift something internally, might kind of help something else percolate a little bit. And for me, from a creativity standpoint, that's the thing that moves me. That works for me.
In a nutshell, can you tell us the steps you're taking to create an app?
Sure. Let's see. One, you run around like crazy, banging your head against walls, trying to find a developer who's any good, who listen to you, who isn't going to just take your money, who can actually build something. That is probably one of the number one most frustrating and difficult things. I had one developer who I worked with for about 8 months, and I spent just a ton of money, and we did not get very far at all. And that's extraordinarily difficult. Then the next developer I got through a reference, an old business partner of mine had worked with him, and had a great experience with him. And then I talked to him, and we started, and it's been tremendous. That, from an app development standpoint, is one of the sort of go, no go, measures. One of the gating measures in getting an app off the ground is really having a good relationship with a good developer. They don't have to be great. They just have to be good, trustworthy, solid, honest, upright. Because I've done a lot of tech stuff, but I'm not a developer. So I always have to rely on a certain level of trust in terms of the people that you work with, in order to get anything done. So I think that's crucial. The other thing is just to literally go out and sort of storyboard it. There are lots of little apps out there that will help you to, on your Mac, go and create all of the different screens that you want in the app. First, it should do this, then it should do that, then it should look like this, then this happens, then that happens. And that's a very good discipline. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's a very good discipline to force you through all the steps that you want your users to be able to go through. And it makes it a very clean package to bring to a developer to say, I want you to build this. These are all this is what it should look like. These are all the behaviors that should happen out of it. So those things are really important. And then in this app, a lot of it is about content sourcing. Is to try and find where am I going to come up with the symbolism, encyclopedias that I think are worth anything, and then going out and having discussions and licensing agreements and things with the people who own those things and create those things. So that stuff, and then you just muddle forward and make a ton of mistakes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, excellent. Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
That was, although I'm a little disappointed that you didn't tell us what dreams mean. I was really looking forward to that.
I thought you were going to say you didn't tell some Holly story.
Oh, well, Holly, yes. But we should probably just have a whole session where we get everybody who knows Holly together.
One very, very brief comment about that.
Oh, please.
The last time Holly visited me in Montana on the edge of on the edge of the supervolcano, the North American supervolcano, she came out in order to meet my old business partner who is creating another app. And we were looking at it, thinking about we might want to invest and do various things and so forth. And we hung out the night before, and she made these espresso martinis. And anyway, the next day I came in, and my old business partner kind of looked at me and looked at Holly, and we sat down to kind of try and do some work. And Brian says to her, "Holly, you broke John. What happened?" That was certainly the case.
And have you put yourself back together?
Debatable.
Well, this was a great pleasure. Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your participation, everybody.
If we can, espresso martini. I think I'm going to have to go make myself an espresso martini now that we're done with class. But this was great, and let us know how we can help with pushing the app forward. I'm really looking forward to playing with it more.
Definitely. And as soon as I get the kind of broader beta out, I would love to have you guys on it and get really good feedback, because the only way, in my experience, to make something worthwhile is to get a lot of people playing with it and telling you what it actually should do, which is rarely what you think it should do.
Beautiful. All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Class, you've got your assignment for your spring break is to play games and to play with a bunch of different simulators and pick one. Do you fool with simulators at all, John?
Not really.
I wondered. Because we're digital twinning, and digital twins we're working with a group from Oxford, an AI group at Oxford, and they're actually getting into digital twins with AI, but also digital twins in VR and stuff like that, reproducing real things in VR so that you can experiment with them through AI, so that you can experiment with them in ways you couldn't do with the real thing.
Love it.
So the class is going to over spring break, they're going to play with a bunch of different simulators and pick one for a deep dive, and then they're going to write a piece of fiction from the point of view of someone who does what the simulator teaches you how to do, that they don't actually do. So it's going to be fiction based on their time in simulators, and they're also going to play around with a figure posing program that I like a lot called Daz Studio. And it's sort of like a photographer studio. So in a way, a simulation of that. Okay, so you all have your homework. Play over the break. If anybody wants some more serious homework, just let me know, and I will send it to you. But otherwise, just have fun. And John, thank you again. And whichever one of us talks to Holly next before the other should greet Holly in the other's name.
Absolutely.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks to you guys. Great talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.